The day after the spore accident, the research center was quiet. The Durrani who had gotten sick were resting in a special medical area. The cultural exchange program had officially ended, but the Durrani couldn't leave until everyone was well enough to travel. Junho and Yuna sat in a new room that Dr. Bayek had given them for their work. It had computers, recording equipment, and large screens on the walls. It was much better than Yunho's bedroom lab. "I can't believe they're taking us seriously now," Yuna said as she set up her sound wave drawings on one wall. Junho nodded. It took an emergency for them to listen. Dr. Bayek entered the room, followed by Junho's parents and three important-looking people in suits. "Junho, Yuna, these are representatives from the International Space Agency," Dr. Bayek said. "They want to hear about your work on the Durrani language." The adults sat down and Junho felt nervous. He had never talked to such important people before, but Yuna squeezed his hand under the table and he felt braver. For the next hour, Junho and Yuna explained their discoveries. They showed how Durrani language worked on multiple levels at once, with sounds, body movements, and subtle signals all creating meaning together. "It's like they're having 5 conversations at the same time," Junho explained. "The translators only catch one of those conversations." One of the officials frowned. "Are you saying the Durrani have been hiding things from us?" Junho chose his words carefully. "Not exactly hiding. The translators just aren't good enough to share all the information. It would be like if you tried to read a book but could only see every 5th word." "And what information have you discovered that the translators missed?" another official asked. Junho looked at his parents, who nodded encouragingly. "The Durrani aren't just visiting Earth," he said. "They're looking for a new home because their planet was destroyed." The room became very quiet. Finally, one of the officials spoke. "This is a serious claim. Do you have proof?" Before Junho could answer, the door opened. Maron, the Durrani leader, walked in, followed by Ravi. Maron still looked weak from the illness, but his amber eyes were clear and alert. "The small human speaks truth," said Maron's translator. But Junho understood that what Maron actually said was much more complex. "This young one has done what we thought impossible. He has heard our true voice when others heard only echoes." "Isn't it true that your planet was destroyed?" one official asked Maron directly. Maron's ears moved in a pattern that Junho now recognized as sadness. "Yes, our world is gone. We are the last of our kind. We came to Earth to see if some of our people could live here in peace." "Why didn't you tell us this from the beginning?" another official asked. "Fear," Maron said simply. "We feared how humans would react. Some of your people already do not trust us as visitors. How would they feel about refugees seeking a new home?" The officials talked among themselves quietly. Junho could see they were concerned. "There's more," Junho said. "The Durrani want to help Earth." Everyone turned to look at him. "The disaster that destroyed their world could happen here too," Junho continued. "They have technology that could help prevent it." Maron nodded. "This is true. Your planet shows early signs of same path. We can help change course." For the next few hours, the humans and Durrani talked. The official translators were still used, but whenever there was confusion, Junho helped explain what the Durrani really meant. Yuna also helped, using her perfect hearing to catch subtle sounds that others missed. At the end of the meeting, the officials left to report to their governments. Dr. Bayek stayed behind with Junho, Yuna, and the Durrani. "What happens now?" Junho asked. Maron looked at him with kind eyes. "Now we build bridge between our peoples. No more half-truths through poor translators. We would like you two to help us improve our translation systems," Dr. Beck said. "Your understanding of how Durrani language works could make a huge difference." Junho felt proud but also sad. "Will you be leaving soon?" he asked Ravi. "Some of us will stay," Ravi said, "to work with humans. I will be one who stays." 3 months later, Junho stood on a stage in front of many important people. Next to him were Yuna, his parents, Dr. Bayek, and several Durrani, including Maron and Ravi. They were at the opening ceremony for the new Human Durrani Communication Center. "This center will be home to our joint efforts to understand each other better," said a human official. And it all started because one boy refused to believe that the Durrani language was too complex to understand. Junho felt his face get warm as people clapped. He wasn't used to this kind of attention. After the ceremony, Ravi came to talk to him. In the past 3 months, Junho had learned much more Durrani language, and Ravi had improved his understanding of human speech. They could now talk without translators, though Junho still had to use his hands to show meaning that Durrani would express with ear and tail movements. "Did you ever think, when you first saw me, that we would be friends?" Junho asked. Ravi's ears moved in a pattern of amusement. "Never. We thought humans were too simple to understand our ways. And I thought you were just making fun of me," Junho said with a smile. "We were," Ravi admitted. "But now I understand why you kept trying even when we mocked you. You saw patterns we didn't think you could see." Yuna joined them carrying a new device she had helped design. It looked like a small tablet but had special sensors that could detect the high sounds and subtle movements of Durrani speech. "The new translator is almost ready for testing," she said excitedly. "It can process 4 layers of meaning at once. Soon no more misunderstandings," Ravi said. As they talked, Junho watched humans and Durrani mingling around the room. Scientists, diplomats, and engineers from both species were working together, sharing ideas and making plans. In one corner, a group was discussing the environmental technology the Durrani had brought, which could help Earth avoid the disaster that had destroyed their world. "What do you think will happen next?" Junho asked Ravi. The young Durrani's ears moved in a pattern that meant thoughtfulness. Hard to predict. 2 different species learning to live together. Never been done before. "But we made a good start," Yuna said. Junho nodded. "All because we learned to really listen to each other." Later that evening, Junho sat with his parents. At home, his mother handed him a letter that had arrived that day. "What's this?" he asked. "An invitation," his father said with pride. "The International Science Academy wants you to speak at their conference next month. They're calling you the boy who built a bridge between worlds." Junho thought about how it all began, with him sitting alone under a tree at school, the weird kid who liked puzzles too much. Now he was helping 2 species understand each other better. "I didn't build the bridge alone," he said, thinking of Yuna's perfect hearing, Ravi's willingness to teach him, and everyone else who had helped. "We all did it together." His mother smiled. "Yes, but you took the first step. You heard what others couldn't hear." The next day at school, things were different. Kids who had once laughed at Junho now wanted to sit with him at lunch. Teachers, who had told him to focus on regular studies, now asked him questions about the Durrani. But the biggest change was inside Junho himself. He no longer felt like the odd one out. He had found his place right in the middle, helping different worlds understand each other. As he walked home, he saw Ravi waiting at the school gate. "Ready for more language work?" the young Durrani asked. Junho smiled and nodded. "Always ready to learn more." Together, they walked toward the research center, a human boy and an alien wolf, talking in a mixture of both their languages, building their bridge word by word. After Junho surprised Ravi with his question about the Durrani homeworld, things changed. The young Durrani no longer mocked him openly. Instead, they watched him with careful eyes whenever he was nearby. They spoke less when he and Yuna were around. "They're worried about us now," Junho told Yuna during lunch at school. "They know we understand some of their language." "Is that good or bad?" Yuna asked. Junho wasn't sure. "I think Ravi might want to tell us more, but the others don't trust us." The cultural exchange program was ending in 3 days. Soon, the Durrani would leave the research center. Junho felt like he was running out of time to learn the full truth. "We need to talk to Ravi alone," he said, without the other Durrani around. Getting Ravi alone was not easy. The young Durrani always moved in groups. But on the next to last day of the program, Junho saw his chance. Ravi went into the garden area by himself while the other Durrani were watching a presentation about Earth music. Junho nudged Yuna, and they quietly followed Ravi outside. The silver-furred alien was standing near a small pond, looking at the fish swimming below. Junho cleared his throat. Ravi? The Durrani turned, his amber eyes fixing on the two children. He made a soft growling sound. Junho tried his best to speak, in Durrani language. He made a series of careful sounds and hand movements. We know truth. Home world gone. Why hide from humans? Ravi's ears twitched in surprise. Then he looked around to make sure no one else was nearby. He bent down closer to Junho's level and spoke, his voice low. Elders fear human reaction. Junho understood from Ravi's speech. Some humans already fear us as visitors. How will they feel about refugees who need new home? Junho nodded to show. He understood. Then he spoke again, this time in human language. But hiding the truth could make things worse. If humans find out later, they might feel tricked. Ravi's translator spoke. Small human makes interesting point. But Junho could tell from Ravi's ear positions and subtle sounds that he had actually said something more like, you understand more than most adult humans. Perhaps you are right. Ravi made a decision. His ears moved forward and he began speaking in slow, careful Durrani speech, pausing often to let Junho and Yuna process what he was saying. With help from Yuna's perfect hearing and their combined notes, Junho understood the shocking truth. The Durrani were the last survivors of their species. Their planet had been destroyed by a terrible environmental disaster. They had sent ships to several possible new homes, and Earth was one of them. But we bring warning too, Ravi explained. Same disaster could happen here. We have technology that could help prevent it. Then why not tell humans that? Yuna asked. Ravi's ears flattened slightly. Some elders think humans not ready for such technology. Think you would use it wrong way, make things worse. Before they could talk more, alarms started blaring throughout the research center. Red lights flashed, and a voice came over the speakers. Emergency in Section B. All personnel evacuate immediately. This is not a drill. Junho's heart raced. Section B was where his parents worked. He turned to run back inside, but Ravi grabbed his arm. Danger, the Durrani said, both through his translator and in his own language. Air contamination. My parents are in there, Junho said, trying to pull away. Ravi's grip tightened. Spores from our ship. Very dangerous for Durrani, not deadly for humans. As they spoke, people began running out of the building. Among them were several Durrani, who looked sick. Their silver fur was dull, and they were making pained sounds. Some had to be helped by humans wearing masks. Junho saw his parents coming out, both wearing protective gear. They were helping one of the adult Durrani who seemed unable to walk on his own. What happened? Junho called to them. His mother waved for him to stay back. There was an accident in the Durrani ship. Some kind of plant sample released spores into the air system. The Durrani are having severe reactions. Ravi let go of Junho's arm and ran toward the other young Durrani, who were gathered at the edge of the garden. They all looked scared. Is everyone going to be okay? Yuna asked. The humans will be fine, Junho's father said. But the Durrani are having trouble breathing. They need medicine from their ship, but the ship's air is now contaminated. Junho watched as medical teams set up a treatment area on the lawn. The sick Durrani were placed on beds while human doctors tried to help them, but it was clear the doctors didn't know what to do. Marin, the Durrani leader, was one of the worst affected. He lay on a bed, his breathing ragged. He tried to speak to the human doctors, but the translation device wasn't working well. The complex medical terms weren't coming through clearly. Need, specific, from ship storage, the translator said. Not safe, humans to enter. Junho could see the frustration on the doctors' faces. They wanted to help, but couldn't understand what medicine the Durrani needed. I can help, Junho said suddenly. He ran to the medical area before his parents could stop him. The human doctor in charge looked down at him. This isn't a place for children right now. I understand their language, Junho said. Better than the translators do. The doctor looked skeptical, but Marin's ears perked up at Junho's words. Small human claims understanding, said the translator. Junho stepped closer to Marin and spoke directly to him. using the Durrani sounds he had learned combined with hand movements to represent ear positions. Tell me what you need. I will try to understand. Marin looked surprised but desperate. He began speaking slowly, his voice weak. Junho listened carefully, focusing on all the layers of meaning. The sounds, the ear movements, everything. He didn't understand all the words, especially the medical terms, but he got the main idea. Turning to the doctor, Junho said, "They need a blue liquid medicine from a cold storage unit on their ship. It's in a room with a silver door, on the 3rd level. The container has symbols like this." He quickly drew a pattern on a notepad. The doctor looked at Marin, who nodded weakly. "How do we get it if the air is contaminated?" the doctor asked. Ravi stepped forward. "I am less affected by spores. Young ones have stronger lungs. I can go." The human emergency team gave Ravi a breathing mask, though they weren't sure if it would work for Durrani biology. Junho wanted to go too, but everyone said no. "Just tell me exactly what to look for," Ravi said to Marin. Marin began explaining, but his breathing became worse. The translator kept cutting out with static. "I can't understand him," Ravi said, looking worried. Junho stepped in. "Let me translate." He listened to Marin's full explanation, catching details the translator missed. Then he turned to Ravi and repeated everything in simple Durrani words he knew Ravi would understand. Ravi's ears perked up in surprise. "You speak true speech better than I thought." Then he nodded and ran toward the ship. While they waited, more Durrani got sick. The human doctors did their best to keep them comfortable, but it was clear they needed the special medicine soon. 15. Anxious minutes later, Ravi returned carrying a container with blue liquid. The medical team quickly prepared it according to Marin's weak instructions, which Junho helped translate. As the sick Durrani received the medicine, their breathing began to improve. The crisis wasn't over, but the worst danger had passed. Dr. Beck, who had been watching from nearby, approached Junho with wide eyes. "How did you understand their medical terms?" she asked. "Even our best linguistic programs couldn't translate those." Junho looked at Yuna, who smiled encouragingly. "Because we listened to all the layers of their language, not just the words." 4. The first time Dr. Baek looked at Junho not as a child with a cute hobby, but as someone who had done something important. "I think," she said slowly, "we need to talk about your research." Junho Kim was 12 years old and very different from other children his age. While most kids at Hanbit Middle School loved playing soccer or video games after school, Junho spent his free time reading books about languages and solving math, problems that even high school students found hard. "Why don't you come play with us?" the other boys would ask sometimes. Junho would shake his head and smile. "I'm busy with something important," he would say. But the truth was, he didn't know how to play like them. His mind worked differently. Every day after school, Junho would sit under the big oak tree in the schoolyard with his notebooks. He created his own codes and tried to solve puzzles from university textbooks. The other students thought he was strange, but Junho didn't mind being alone. His parents understood him, and that was enough. Junho's parents, Dr. Taiho Kim and Dr. Mina Park, were scientists at the Seoul International Research Center. They knew their son was special. They gave him books and puzzles that most adults would find too hard. But sometimes they worried about him. "He needs friends his own age," Dr. Park said to her husband one evening while Junho was busy in his room. Dr. Kim nodded. "I know, but he's happy with his work. That's more than many people can say." One morning in April, everything changed. Junho's parents came home very excited. "The Durrani are coming to our research center," Dr. Kim told Junho at breakfast. Junho's eyes grew wide. The Durrani were aliens who had come to Earth 3 years ago. They looked like giant wolves that walked on 2 legs. They had silver fur and bright amber eyes that seemed to glow in the dark. "Can I meet them?" Junho asked, nearly knocking over his bowl of rice. His mother smiled. "That's why we're telling you. They're bringing some of their young ones for a cultural exchange. We thought you might want to join." Junho could hardly believe it. The Durrani were the most interesting thing to happen to Earth in his lifetime. They came from a planet many light years away and had technology humans could only dream about. But the most interesting thing about them was their language. Nobody has been able to fully understand how they talk, Junho's father explained. We have translation devices that the Durrani gave us, but they only work for simple things. Their language is too complex for our best linguist to figure out. Junho felt a spark inside him. A language too hard for adults to understand? This was exactly the kind of puzzle he loved. The day the Durrani arrived, the research center was full of important people. Government officials, scientists, and reporters crowded around, waiting to see the aliens. Junho stood with the other children, whose parents worked at the center. When the Durrani walked in, everyone became quiet. They were taller than the tallest humans, almost 8 feet high. Their silver fur shimmered under the lights. The leader, whose name sounded like Marin to human ears, stepped forward. "We bring greetings," said the small device hanging around Marin's neck. The words sounded flat and simple, nothing like the complex sounds coming from the alien's mouth. Behind the adult Durrani came several younger ones. They were still taller than most human adults, but their fur was lighter, almost white. Their eyes darted around the room, taking in everything with curiosity. One of the young Durrani, whom the humans called Ravi, noticed the group of human children. He walked over, followed by 2 others. The human children stepped back, scared of the large wolf-like creatures. But not Junho. He stepped forward, fascinated. Ravi made a series of sounds, growls, clicks, and high-pitched notes that seemed to flow together like music. His ears moved in different directions as he spoke, and his tail swished behind him. The translation device around Ravi's neck spoke. "Small humans are funny. Look how tiny this one is." The other young Durrani made sounds that might have been laughter. Their translation devices said, "He stares at us. Is he afraid?" "I'm not afraid," Junho said, looking straight into Ravi's amber eyes. "I'm interested in how you talk." The young Durrani looked at each other. Ravi's ears twitched forward. "Small human thinks he can understand our speech," the translator said. "Amusing little creature." The other Durrani made more laughing sounds. Even some of the human children giggled. But Junho didn't feel embarrassed. Instead, he listened carefully to the sounds the Durrani made and watched how their bodies moved as they spoke. He noticed that what came out of the translation device didn't match the complexity of what he heard and saw. For the rest of the day, Junho followed the young Durrani around, watching and listening. The alien youngsters seemed amused by his interest. They spoke to each other, making complicated sounds, while their translation devices gave simple, sometimes mocking comments. "The little human follows us like a pet. He thinks he's smart. Small brain cannot understand big ideas." But Junho saw something the others didn't. When the young Durrani spoke, their ears, tails, and even the fur on their backs moved in patterns. It wasn't just their voices making the language, it was their whole bodies. That night, Junho couldn't sleep. His mind was full of the sounds and movements he had seen. He got out of bed and took out his notebook. He started writing down everything he remembered. "Their language isn't just sounds," he whispered to himself as he wrote. "It's like they're speaking with their whole bodies at once." The next morning, Junho asked his parents if he could go back to the research center. "The cultural exchange program lasts for a month," his father said. "You can come every day after school if you want." "Can I bring my recorder?" Junho asked. His mother looked surprised but nodded. "I suppose so. What are you planning, Junho?" Junho smiled, his eyes bright with excitement. "I'm going to learn their language, not just what the translators say, but what they're really saying." His parents exchanged worried looks. "Junho, even the best linguists in the world haven't been able to fully decode the Durrani language," his father said gently. "It might be too difficult." "That's because they're looking at it wrong," Junho said with confidence. "I think I see something they don't." His parents didn't argue. They knew that once Junho set his mind on solving a puzzle, nothing could stop him. The next day, Junho returned to the research center with his digital recorder and a new notebook. The young Durrani seemed surprised to see him again. Ravi made a series of growls and yips. The translator said, "The small human returns. Still thinks he can understand." The other Durrani made their laughing sounds. One of them bent down close to Junho, ears twitching rapidly. Small human brain. Big Durrani words. "Not possible," said the translator. Junho just smiled and pressed record on his device. He didn't care if they mocked him. He had found the most interesting puzzle in the universe, and he was going to solve it, even if no one else believed he could. Every day after school, Junho rushed to the research center with his recorder and notebooks. He had turned his bedroom into a small lab, with papers stuck all over the walls. Some had drawings of sound waves. Others had notes about the movements of Durrani ears, tails, and fur. "Mom, can I put a bigger desk in my room?" Junho asked one morning while eating breakfast. His mother looked worried. "You're spending too much time on this, Junho. You need to do your regular homework too." "I am doing it," Junho said. "I finished all my assignments for the next 2 weeks already." His father laughed. "That's our boy. Yes, you can have a bigger desk." At school, Junho's teachers noticed he was distracted in class, often scribbling. In a special notebook he kept separate from his schoolwork. "What are you writing about all the time?" his math teacher asked. "I'm studying the Durrani language," Junho answered honestly. Some kids in the back of the room laughed. "He thinks he's smarter than all the scientists," one boy whispered loudly. The teacher frowned. "That's a job for professional linguists, Junho. You should focus on your studies." But Junho couldn't stop thinking about the Durrani language. It was like a song that got stuck in his head, but much more complex and interesting. One day during lunch, a girl sat down next to Junho under his usual tree. Her name was Yuna Lee, and she was in the same grade but different class. Junho had seen her before but never talked to her. She was known for being the best musician in school. "I heard you're studying the wolf aliens," she said simply. Junho nodded, a bit surprised that someone was talking to him. "Can I hear what they sound like?" Yuna asked. Junho took out his recorder and played one of the clips he had captured. It was Ravi talking to another young Durrani. Yuna closed her eyes as she listened. When the recording ended, she opened them again. "Play it once more," she said. After listening a second time, Yuna took out a notebook and drew a series of curved lines like mountains and valleys. "What's that?" Junho asked. "It's the sound pattern," Yuna said. "I have perfect pitch. I can hear exactly what notes they're using." She pointed to her drawing. "See how this part goes up while this other part goes down at the same time? They're making 2 sounds at once." Junho stared at the drawing, then at Yuna. "You can hear that?" Yuna nodded. "My music teacher says I have the best ears she's ever taught. I can hear things most people can't." For the first time in weeks, Junho smiled. "Would you like to help me? I'm trying to understand their language." After that, Yuna started coming to the research center with Junho. While he recorded the Durrani and took notes on their body movements, Yuna drew sound patterns and wrote down the exact notes and tones she heard. The young Durrani noticed the new, human girl and seemed curious. "Now there are 2 small ones watching us," Ravi's translator said. "This one makes pictures." Yuna didn't seem bothered by their comments. She just kept drawing sound waves and occasionally looking up to watch their ears and tails. 3 weeks into the exchange program, Junho and Yuna sat in his bedroom lab, surrounded by recordings, notes, and drawings. "Look at this," Yuna said, pointing to several of her sound wave drawings. "When they say what seems like the same word, the basic sound is similar, but these overtones are different." She pointed to the smaller waves that ran above the main wave. Junho looked at his own notes about ear positions. "And their left ear is in a different position each time, even though they're making the same main sound." They looked at each other, both realizing something important. "It's not just one word," Junho said slowly. "It's multiple words at the same time. Like playing chords on a piano instead of single notes," Yuna added. "Or like singing harmony with yourself." Junho jumped up and started pacing around his room. "That's why the translators don't work right. They're only catching one layer of meaning." He grabbed a blank paper and started drawing. Human languages are like this. He drew a single line going from left to right. One word after another, in order. Then he drew several lines running parallel to each other. But the Durrani language is like this, multiple streams of meaning happening at the same time. Yuna nodded excitedly. And the ear positions might be like grammar or tone, like how in Korean we change the ending of words to show respect or make questions. For the next few days, Junho and Yuna created a new system to track all the layers of Durrani speech. They used different colored pens to mark different sound tones. They created symbols for ear positions, tail movements, and even fur ripples. When they went back to the research center, they watched the Durrani with new eyes. They still couldn't understand everything, but they were beginning to see patterns that made sense. Ravi and the other young Durrani continued to mock them through their translators. The little genius still tries to understand. How amusing. Such a small brain cannot hold big Durrani thoughts. They make many colorful marks on paper. What does it mean? But Junho noticed something interesting. When the translator said these mocking things, the Durrani's body language didn't always match. Sometimes Ravi's ears would be in a position that Junho had started to associate with curiosity, not mockery. One afternoon, Junho was recording a conversation between two young Durrani when he heard something that made him freeze. He understood part of what they said, without the translator. The first Durrani made a series of sounds that Junho now recognized as a greeting, but with ear positions that added something like private or secret. The second Durrani responded, with sounds and movements that Junho partially understood as humans and not know and danger. Junho's heart raced. He looked at Yuna, who was drawing sound waves as usual. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. "I heard them talking," she said. "What about it?" "I understood some of it," Junho said, his voice low. "They're talking about something humans don't know, something about danger." Yuna's eyes widened. "Are you sure?" Junho nodded. "Not all of it, but enough to know it's important." That night, Junho couldn't sleep again. He went through all his notes and recordings, trying to understand more of what he had heard. By morning, he had filled another notebook with thoughts and theories. At breakfast, his parents noticed his tired eyes. "You need to rest, Junho," his mother said. "This project is becoming too much for you." "I'm fine," Junho said, "and I'm making progress. I think I might have understood some real Durrani speech yesterday." His father looked surprised. "That would be impressive, but be careful about getting too excited. Even Dr. Baek, the head linguist, has only been able to understand basic Durrani words after years of study." "That's because they're looking at it wrong," Junho insisted. "The Durrani don't talk like we do. Their language isn't one-dimensional." His parents exchanged concerned looks but didn't argue. At school that day, Junho could barely focus. During lunch, he told Yuna about his late-night work. "I think the Durrani are hiding something from humans," he said. "Something important about why they're here." "Should we tell someone?" Yuna asked. Junho thought for a moment. "Not yet. We need to understand more first. No one would believe us anyway." Yuna nodded. "Then we need to record more conversations, especially when they think no humans are listening." As they walked back to class, Junho felt both excited and nervous. He had started this project because he loved puzzles. Now he was beginning to think he had found something much bigger than a puzzle. The Durrani were keeping secrets, and only Junho might be able to discover what they were. Junho and Yuna needed a better way to record the Durrani. Their regular voice recorder missed many of the higher sounds that Yuna could hear with her special ears. "My dad has a special microphone that records ultrasonic sounds," Yuna said one day as they walked to the research center. "He uses it to study bats. Maybe we could borrow it." Junho's eyes lit up. "That would be perfect. Can you ask him?" The next day, Yuna brought a strange-looking device to school. It had a big dish-shaped part that pointed forward and connected to a small recorder. "Dad says we have to be very careful with it," Yuna said. "It's expensive." That afternoon, they set up the special microphone in a corner of the room where the young Durrani usually gathered. They hid it behind some plants and connected it to Yuna's laptop. "Now we can hear everything," Junho said with excitement. 4. The next few days, they recorded hours of Durrani speech. After the aliens left each day, Junho and Yuna would go through the recordings together. With the special microphone, they could hear sounds that normal human ears couldn't detect. "Look at this," Yuna said, pointing to her computer screen. It showed sound waves that went much higher than regular human speech. "They're saying at least 3 things at the same time." Junho nodded. "And with the different ear positions and tail movements, it's like they're speaking 5 sentences at once." Working together every day after school, they created a basic dictionary of Durrani sounds and movements. They could now understand simple parts of conversations, though many details were still unclear. One day, Junho decided to try something new. He had been studying the Durrani language for almost 4 weeks now. Maybe he could try to speak it. He practiced at home, making the growling and chirping sounds while moving his hands to represent Durrani ear positions. It was hard without the right body parts, but he thought he could make it work. The next day, Ravi and 2 other young Durrani were talking near the water fountain. Junho walked up to them and made his best attempt at a Durrani greeting. The young aliens froze, their amber eyes wide with shock. For a moment, nobody moved. Then all 3 Durrani started making sounds that Junho now recognized as laughter. "The small human makes strange noises," said Ravi's translator. "Like a baby Durrani with no teeth." Junho felt his face get hot. The other human children nearby were staring at him. Some were laughing too. But then Ravi did something unexpected. He bent down closer to Junho and made a simple growling sound, moving his ears forward in a way that Junho had learned meant something like try or attempt. Junho tried again, making the sound more carefully. Ravi's ears twitched and he made a different sound, slower this time. For several minutes, Ravi helped Junho practice the greeting. The other Durrani watched with what seemed like curiosity. Finally, Junho made the sound correctly. Ravi's tail wagged once, which Junho had seen happen when adult Durrani approved of something the young ones did. "You learn," said the translator, but Junho understood that Ravi had actually said something more like, "Good try, keep learning." That night, Junho told his parents about what happened. "I spoke some Durrani today," he said proudly. "And Ravi helped me get it right." His father looked impressed. "That's remarkable, Junho. Maybe you should show Dr. Bayek what you've learned." Junho shook his head. "Not yet. I want to understand more first." The next day, Junho and Yuna set up their recording equipment in a new spot. The young Durrani usually spent time in a small garden area when the adults were in meetings. There they spoke more freely. As Junho and Yuna listened through their headphones, they heard something that made them both sit up straight. "Homeworld. Gone." Junho translated slowly, looking at Yuna's sound wave drawings and his own notes on ear positions. "Not just sick, completely destroyed." Yuna's eyes widened. "Are they saying their planet is destroyed? I thought they were just visiting Earth." They listened more carefully as Ravi spoke to the others. "Elders' plan, hide truth and from humans," Junho translated bit by bit. "Think humans. Too simple to understand." "Too simple?" Yuna looked offended. "They think we're stupid?" Junho shook his head. "I don't think that's it. I think they're worried about how humans will react." They continued listening. The conversation was complex and they could only understand parts of it. But what they did understand was shocking. The Durrani weren't just visitors from another world. They were refugees looking for a new home. Their planet had been destroyed by some kind of environmental disaster. They were checking if Earth could be a place where some of their people could live. But there was disagreement among the Durrani. Some, like Marin, wanted to tell humans the full truth. Others thought humans would be scared if they knew and might not welcome the Durrani. "We need to tell someone," Yuna said when they had heard enough. "This is too important to keep secret." Junho agreed. "Let's tell my parents first. They'll know what to do." But when they tried to explain their discovery to Junho's parents that evening, they faced a problem. You're saying the Durrani's planet is destroyed and they're looking for a new home? His mother asked, looking concerned. Yes, Junho said. We heard them talking about it. They're keeping it secret because they think humans won't understand. His father sighed. Junho, this is a very serious claim. How can you be sure you understood them correctly? Even the professional linguists can't understand Durrani conversations that well. Because they're only listening to one part of the language, Junho explained. You have to hear all the layers at once. His parents looked at each other with worry. I think we should talk to Dr. Baek about this, his father said finally. She's the expert on Durrani communication. The next day, Junho's father arranged a meeting with Dr. Jiwon Baek, the head linguist at the research center. She was a serious woman with gray hair and glasses who had studied languages for longer than Junho had been alive. Junho and Yuna brought their recordings, notes, and drawings. They explained their theory about how Durrani language worked on multiple levels at once. Dr. Baek listened politely, but Junho could tell she didn't believe them. This is very creative work, she said, patting Junho's head. You have quite an imagination. It's not imagination, Junho said, trying to stay calm. Look at our recordings. The special microphone picks up sounds your equipment doesn't. Dr. Baek looked at their data for a few minutes. Yes, there are some high-frequency sounds here, but to suggest the Durrani are speaking multiple sentences at once is quite a leap. Can you explain why their translation devices don't work well? Junho asked. Because language is complex, Dr. Baek said. Translation is never perfect, or because the translators only catch one layer of meaning, Yuna suggested. Dr. Baek smiled in a way that made it clear she thought they were just children playing pretend. Thank you for sharing your ideas. Now I have a meeting to attend. As they left her office, Junho felt frustrated and angry. She didn't even really look at our work, he said. What do we do now? Yuna asked. Junho thought for a moment. We need better proof, and we need to learn more about what the Durrani are really doing here. Later that day, they saw Ravi in the garden. Junho decided to try speaking Durrani again, this time with a specific question. He made a series of careful sounds, moving his hands to mimic ear positions. He was trying to ask, Is your home world gone? Ravi's reaction was immediate. His fur stood on end, and his ears went flat against his head. A position Junho had learned meant surprise or alarm. Ravi spoke quickly to the other young Durrani, who all turned to stare at Junho. Through his translator, Ravi said, Small human asks strange questions, should not know such things. But what Junho understood from Ravi's actual speech was much more interesting. This one understands more than we thought. He listens differently than the others. Junho knew he was right. The Durrani were hiding something big, and now they knew that he was starting to understand their true language. The question was, what would they do about it?